guys, how's it going? Prediction God MasterBucks here, and welcome to the update to my updated World Cup prediction. This is my third update video. It feels like my 300th. The quarterfinals have wrapped up. We do have our 4 semi-finalists, and I'm going to go back and react to all the predictions that I made in my updated World Cup prediction video that I just posted before the quarterfinals got started, and then I'm going to go on, predict the winners of the semi-finals, and then some other stuff is coming up as well. Starting off with Uruguay versus France. Of course, I backed France, as I have been backing France for pretty much this entire tournament to make at least the semi-finals, and then they went on and did it, beating Uruguay 2-0. It was obviously a pretty decent first goal, and that second goal, which was just a horrendous error on Muslera's part. The ball swerved a little in the air, but no excuses really. That is Karius level goalkeeping. And look, Uruguay had their chances in this game, and they very well could have provided a bit of an upset, but I don't think, especially with Cavani being out for the game, that is obviously a massive out for them, and really didn't help them going forward as well. Suarez obviously class, but I mean, that strike partnership was just deadly. And you take one of them out, it's going to completely disrupt things, and it obviously showed. And you know, I was not convinced about France the first time I saw them, obviously. Their first game was against Australia. It was against us, and they barely beat us at all. Questionable penalty, a goal that crossed the ball, that crossed the goal line by like this much. It was very, I don't know. And against Peru, they just ground out a 1-0 win. Against Denmark, they didn't look great, although that was their second team. And their group stage basically was not that impressive. I was concerned for them if they were even going to be able to do as well as I had initially thought they would. But they have, to be fair to them, really turned around their form. A good win against Argentina, now a good win against Uruguay, and they're going up against Belgium in the semis. Who knows? They could go all the way. Uruguay go out the tournament. It was a pretty decent effort on their part. I'm sure they should be happy with the quarterfinal. I mean, it's maybe, I don't know if that's what you'd expect of them, but I'm sure that maybe they'll probably be leaving this tournament feeling they could have done something a little bit more, maybe if Cavani had stayed healthy. On to the second quarterfinal, which was Brazil versus Belgium, and right from day one, when I made my very first World Cup prediction video, like a month before the tournament started, I said that France would make the semi-finals and that they would face Belgium in the semi-finals after Belgium would beat Brazil in the quarters. Unfortunately, I flip-flopped on that decision in my last updated prediction, and I said that Belgium were going to lose to Brazil because Brazil were looking okay. I should have stuck with my prediction. If I did, I would have looked like a fucking genius. I still feel it's pretty impressive that a month before the tournament started, I said France would make the semis, I said that they'd be facing Belgium in the semis, and I said that Belgium would make the semi-finals by beating Brazil. Right at the start, I think that's impressive. Yes, I may have changed my mind later on, but I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Hey, you got to accept my first answer. So in a weird way, I've kind of got this prediction right, but at the same time, I've kind of got to go off my latest one that was the updated prediction, isn't it? That's what I'm reacting to. So unfortunately, I technically got this one wrong, which sucks. I flip-flopped. I changed my mind. I thought Brazil had done enough and maybe had changed my mind, and I thought that maybe they should have been able to have got it done, but no. Belgium just, fucking Fernandinho, man, I swear to God. If he doesn't score that own goal, and Brazil aren't on the bloody back foot for the whole game, who knows how that could have ended up. But it will be a France versus Belgium semi-final. I'm looking forward to it, and I cannot call who's winning that one, honestly. So then, France are going to face Belgium in the semi-final, and I don't even know who I'm going to call for that one, because that is just such a tough game. I don't know. I'm not even going to think about it. We're just going to move on to the next quarterfinal. That third quarterfinal was Croatia versus Russia. And Russia, I tell you what, as a bit of a, I had to throw a bit of an upset in there in my last prediction. And I said that Russia were going to beat Croatia. I pretty much said that because, again, like I said, I needed to throw in some sort of an upset, especially with the way this World Cup's been going and we've had shock exits left, right, and centre. At first, I thought when I made that prediction that I might have screwed up. I maybe should have picked another team to pull off the upset. I was thinking maybe Uruguay could have done it against France, but in the end, that wasn't the case. And I should have stuck with Belgium versus Brazil. But again, that was seen as quite unlikely, a lot less likely than, say, Uruguay getting over France. There was a moment, though, where I thought, hang on a second, I might have just pulled out an absolute banger here with Russia maybe beating Croatia when Mario Fernandes scored 5 minutes from extra time, or 5 minutes from stoppage time in extra time, right at the end of the game, forced penalty shootout. And then he goes and just blows it wide horribly. That entire penalty shootout, no Russian player that stepped up really looked confident, honestly. And from the first penalty miss, you thought, oh, this isn't going to look too good. Really, what was that fucking Panenka? I am sorry. But Croatia have done it from, I don't think they even got out of their group stage 4 years ago to now maybe being on the cusp of a World Cup final, it's extraordinary. And the team that Croatia will face in their semi-final will beat England after they got the expected victory over Sweden. I said in my previous video that whoever England faced in the semi or in the quarterfinals, whether it be Sweden or Switzerland, that neither of those two sides would be a bigger threat to them going further in the competition than Colombia was going to be. Since they got past Colombia, I was fully backing them to go on and beat Sweden, and indeed they did. Now they end up facing Croatia in the semi-finals in what is just, and I'm going to make a video separate to this if they do make the final, but it's just the most incredibly easy run to a World Cup final I think I've maybe ever seen. I would love to go back over and see every path that every single team that's ever made a World Cup final has done. I'm going to make a video on it in hopefully a few days or so, but it just seems absolutely phenomenal to me. You got to play Colombia, Sweden, and Croatia to be one game away from being world champions. It's extraordinary to me. But it may very well be coming home. They've got to get past Croatia, and England just have to do it, honestly. They at least have to make the World Cup final. If they end up facing France or Belgium and they lose, that's fine, because Belgium are class. France obviously are brilliant as well. Two very backed teams to win the World Cup at the beginning of it all. And I swear, I don't know, you've got to make the World Cup final. With this sort of a run, you've got to do it. Because this is England's, trust me, best ever chance to win the World Cup, I think, in at least our lifetimes, in this generation and beyond. I don't think you'll ever get a better run or a better chance to win the World Cup in 50, 60, 70 years in the future. I honestly believe it. And I'm not just talking about England. I'm talking about any nation ever. We will see how it all ends up, but that was that. I got 2 out of 4 correct, unfortunately, after dropping the Brazil-Belgium game and, of course, the Russia-Croatia game. Although, to be fair, I did originally say that Belgium would beat Brazil, and I did also say that Croatia would win, but I was just picking Russia because I just had to throw in an upset. So, can I technically give myself like a half for each, so maybe like 3, 2.5. Let's go with 2.5. But now, the moment I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for, the time to predict who is making the World Cup final. Beginning with France versus Belgium. Now, tough game to call. Very tough. I feel like with the other semi-final, I'm pretty locked on as to, or I'm pretty well. I've got a team that I'm fully expecting to get through in that second semi-final. But for this one, that's the game that I was always gonna. I'm nervous for this moment. All right, let's have a solid critical thinking session right here, okay? Let's start off with the teams individually, and let's start off with France. So they started off their tournament pretty averagely, didn't look too good in the group stage, although they got a big win against Argentina. They kept the clean sheet against Uruguay as well, although they were facing an Uruguay-less Edison Cavani-less Uruguayan team. So I don't know if they've faced absolute quality, because Argentina, although they're a big side or a big nation, big footballing nation, they were pretty atrocious at this World Cup, and Uruguay were down one of their star players, but they were still a very solid unit, and they got a good 2-0 win against them. So I think there's definitely, they have not dominated by any means. I think at any game or on any game that they've really played, they've just been good enough. Meanwhile, against Belgium, I don't even really want to consider their group games, because they played Tunisia and Panama, who were 2 of the weakest teams at the World Cup. Took care of them pretty convincingly. I don't even want to talk about the Belgium-England game, because that was basically their second team. I don't know how many of their starting 11 actually played that game, but it doesn't almost feel like we should be bothering to look at it, because it's almost a completely different team. So we won't look at that. Their round of 16 game against Japan, they nearly let it go. They nearly got knocked out at that point when they were 2-0 down against Japan. To be fair to them, rallied well and came back to win 3-2. So that is impressive, but being 2-0 down against Japan and nearly going out the tournament certainly is not. But the thing is, you go up against a team like Brazil, who honestly never really looked poor or below average at any point. They've just sort of either been okay or, sort of picking up form and doing quite well. Like against Switzerland, I thought they were okay, and in other games as well, like against Costa Rica, I thought they were dominating the game but could just never put them away, but they were eventually able to start scoring goals a bit more regularly. So I felt like Brazil were in a relatively good place, but they knocked out, I thought, and in the eyes of a lot of people, the favourites to win the World Cup. So honestly, I feel like at this point, Belgium have probably had a much more impressive World Cup campaign than France have. And on paper, if we look at the players, if we look at the teams, you've got obviously France's Didier Deschamps managed team, and then Roberto Martinez's managed team. A lot of people like to discredit and write off Belgium because of Roberto Martinez, but I feel like that's just one bad season with Everton, one really bad season with Everton. I don't think it completely disvalues him as a manager. I think he's done all right. The quality of the starting 11 for France is obviously very impressive. They've got an incredible amount of depth, but let's not really consider it too much. Let's just think of it as just the starting 11, because really they're the players that are out there actually playing. Doesn't matter how good your bench is if they don't play. Despite the fact that France have beaten Belgium every single time they have met at the World Cup, I am going out there and saying that Belgium are going to get their first win against France at the World Cup and are going to make the World Cup final. First I said France would win the World Cup. Then I said Brazil would win the World Cup. Now I'm saying that Belgium not exactly will win the World Cup, but that they are at least going to make the final. And you know what? I say it's, fair enough, because Belgium, this was their golden generation hitting their prime, and this is their time, honestly. France are always going to have an amazing side, but Belgium, I'm not quite sure if they're, in the next, I don't know how many decades, if they're ever going to be able to produce a team this good ever again. So there we go. Belgium is making the World Cup final, but who will they be facing? Will it be Croatia or will it be England? Who is taking that final spot in the World Cup final? And once again, just like I did with the France-Belgium game, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to really think this through, I'm going to go and analyze every little aspect that I can possibly think of right now and come up with a winner. We'll start off with Croatia, and the first thing that I want to talk about with them is that they have gone deep into extra time back-to-back now, okay? In the round of 16, they had to go to extra time and penalties, and then in the quarterfinals. Their last game, they ended up having to go to extra time once again and penalties against Russia. They got it done. I don't know if that's going to have a massive impact on their game against England, but they have now played a full hour worth of extra high-tempo, fast-paced, intense football, or at least technically 30 minutes more than England have, because you have to consider the fact that they too did go to extra time and penalties in their round of 16 game against Colombia. I don't know if it's going to have a massive impact, but you've also got to consider that England and Croatia did play on the same day, but that England played a little earlier in the afternoon and Croatia had to play that night game. So that's, again, a little extra rest that I think is going to be so crucial, especially in the later stages of the World Cup tournament, with teams playing games once every 4 days or 4 or 5 days. It's just such a short window and such a short rest period. Croatia does have a pretty damn good team that's really going to give some problems to England. And I think one of the biggest problems that they're going to face will be in midfield, because, look, no offense to Jordan Henderson, Eric Dyer, and blokes like Dele Alli and Lingard, to be fair, is actually having a banging World Cup. I mean, not just for the fact that he's actually popping up quite a fair bit, scoring goals, or at least a single goal that was an absolute banger, but his pass percentages and his completion rates as well. I mean, he's really doing quite well in the middle of the park. But I honestly think that Croatia's midfield is going to outclass England's midfield, with the likes of obviously Rakitic and Modric, who I'm almost starting to think maybe could be a contender for best midfielder in the world. Yeah, and I've been a bloke that has been basically doing... I've been bigging up Kevin De Bruyne all Premier League season long last time out. So now you've got me saying that Modric might be the best. One advantage I do think that England's going to have over Croatia is probably going to be, obviously they've got a lot more pace than Croatia do. And I think that a player like maybe Raheem Sterling, who hasn't really impressed too much at this World Cup, is really going to have could have quite a big influence on this game, really opening up Croatia's defensive line. And I think, obviously the pace of the England side, there's a lot more in it compared to Croatia. So I think that England's back four or back five is definitely going to have a lot more. It's going to have a slightly easier time having to contain Croatia's attackers than Croatia's going to have dealing with England's attackers. I do expect Sterling to hopefully have a bit to do in this game, and if he doesn't impress, if he does have another sort of iffy and probably not really impressive performance, then maybe that could be it for him. Maybe Gareth Southgate ends up pulling the trigger and pulls Sterling, and whoever he puts in his place, I don't know, maybe a Rashford, maybe a Vardy. I don't know. If you go from having Vardy on the bench for the entire World Cup and then chucking him in for the final, who knows? But I think Sterling needs to have a big game, and I kind of expect that maybe he will. But again, like I said, the pace and the directness of certain players like Raheem Sterling and then others in that England side, I think that it's favouring England, and I feel like it is their time. And that is me saying it, basically. I am saying that England is going to make the World Cup final. It is their time. Croatia is going to get knocked out of the semis. I don't know what the game's going to end up being. It could be, hopefully, a nice, really good, free-flowing, entertaining game of football, or it could, again, just be a bit, a bit locked in. And, it's a very tense affair, obviously, a World Cup semi-final. So maybe there isn't going to be an abundance of goals, but who knows? We could either get just a bore, draw, 0-0, sort of like we got with, at the last World Cup, we had Netherlands versus Argentina. I don't know if that game was a 0-0, but it went all the way to penalties. Argentina got it done. And then, of course, we had, on the flip side, Brazil versus Germany. I don't know if it's going to end up being sort of something like that, but I am saying that England is going to win. So if that all goes the way I expect it to go, and I live up to my name as the prediction god, then it will be a Belgium versus England final at the 2018 World Cup. We will see how it all ends up, but until the next video, guys, my name is the MasterBucks. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course to put in the comments down below who you think is going to make it to the World Cup final. Will it be France? Will it be Belgium? Will it be England? Will it be Croatia? Just let me know. Till next time, guys, thanks for watching. My name is the MasterBucks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a good one.